Already mic testing, mic testing. Okay, perfect. Let me go to my main camera. Alright, we're live, and then let me actually get to maybe set off my screen. There we go. Alright, we're live, and as you guys can tell by the title and thumbnail, today I'm going to be working on, I think it's like key controls. I forgot the concept name. Hold up, guys. Okay, input types in SDL3 using C++. That's it. Last stream and the stream before that and the stream before that, I did go over like collision logic, but I haven't started pixel perfect collision yet. That said, let's go to my gameplay screen. I honestly might start pixel perfect collision soon, but for today I'm working on like inputs in SDL3. Okay, let's see. Listen up, chat. Your pupil has returned to the battlefield, and today we're forging his mind into the fires of SDL3 text input, the power that lets a player speak to the game. Everyone watching, remember this: a game that can listen is dead world. A game that listens becomes alive. Your pupil here is still learn how to give his game a voice and a mind, and you're all witnessing the moment it begins. Okay, honestly guys, I don't actually know what kind of user input is this going to be, because I'm not actually used to adding user input that we type stuff on the screen, like if that makes any sense, like in my window. I'm assuming we type the user input in like our terminal. Now people, today we master SDL text input. How to let your player type full sentences. This is the foundation of in-game NPC conversations, command consoles, naming screens, everything that makes a game feel alive. Tell me people, what exactly do you want to learn first? Capture type text, handling, backspace slash enter. Okay, drawing the text on the screen, making a proper text UI. Oh, that actually sounds kind of... Okay, I didn't actually know we could draw the text on the screen. Let me say something like... Let's say... Alright guys, there we go. Okay, let's say something like, let's say, can we start from the basics question mark, because I have almost no experience in using user input on SDL3. Okay, let's see. So what's the basics? Hiding wishes. I appreciate you joining the stream. People good. Basics means no weakness, just pure foundation. Chat, watch closely. This is the birth of a real game developer. We start from zero, as if you have never touched the text input before. Okay, I'll build this into your skull brick by brick so you never forget it. Step 1, what's the text input inside? Okay, what text input actually is in SDL3? When a player passes keys, two different things happen. Raw key presses, things like WA, left arrow, shift, backspace. This is for controls, movement, shortcuts. Text input, sentences, words, characters, things like hello, I need help, where am I? Okay, this is for chat boxes, naming screens, NPC conversations. Okay, UI number 2, that's what you're good. Okay, that's what gives your game the ability to listen to players. SDL will not send text characters unless you turn text input on. Step 2, turn text input on. This must be called after you create your window and render SDL underscore start input. Okay, what ChatGPT model are you using, free or paid? Honestly, I am using the free model. Okay, that said, if you forget this, SDL will ignore everything the player types. I will yell at you if you forget this. Okay, so I gotta remember the SDL underscore start text input to like start my inputs. Step 3, listen for typed characters. Inside your event loop, if event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore text underscore input, this event contains characters the player typed. This is not a key press. This is actually text including words like hello. SDL gives you the typed text as e.text.text. Okay, this is actually kind of close to event.key.key when I was like working with like key controls. That said, step 4, store what the player types. Okay, you need a variable, a standard string input. Okay, so we have a input variable, which is a standard string. It is set to an empty string. Okay, then when SDL gives you characters, input plus equals to e.text.text. If the player types hello, the string becomes HHEHEL. Okay. Step 5, handle special keys, backspace, enter. These are not text inputs, these are normal key events. If event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down. So we're looking if any of our keyboard buttons are being currently pushed down. If e.key.key sym.sym. Okay, I did try this before. I think this might be SDL2's command. Okay, if event.key is backspace, okay, and then SDL key return, remove the last character, user press enter to submit the message. This is how player says I need help and your game gets it. Now people, here's what we do. Here's what we do next. I'll walk you through the full basic template and then we can build a real text box. Okay, and then your game will listen just like you talk to me. But first, tell me this. Do you want to build the basic input loop step by step, or do you want me to show you the full structure? Then you implement it. Okay, do I want to build the basic loop step by step? Let me actually, okay, honestly, I think I want to build the basic, actually, I might say the full structure. Let me say something like, let's say, maybe, can I see the full structure question mark? Okay, because usually I feel like I do learn better when I actually see the whole code and how stuff works in it. That said, good, your mind wants the whole skeleton first. A true warrior must see the battlefield before swinging his sword. I'll show you the full minimal SDL3 input structure. This is not fancy, not decorated, just the pure clean heart of text input. Study it, breathe it in. This is what your game needs to listen to the player. The full basic structure, read carefully. So we include SDL3, we include IO stream, and we include strings. I also use ChatGPT for learning. Bro, can you tell me some useful prompts that I can use for studying? Honestly, I don't think I actually use like really good prompts. I just say sensei/ChatGPT what I want to go over, and then I do like say to like teach me from the very basics, like I'm a beginner type stuff, and then I go over the basics and I see the the reference code, learn what's in the reference code, and try adding it with my own logic when I actually write the stuff. That's it. So I create a window here. Okay, this is SDL2's stuff though. I mean, okay, wait, never mind. I think I could like create window because I'm not creating my renderer here. Okay, then I start my input, so I go with SDL_text input. Okay, so start text input, and then boolean running, standard string. Okay, while running, SDL event E, I check all events. Okay, I'm gonna copy this part real quick. I think it's gonna be much easier if I read here. What is sensei? Honestly, I gave like ChatGPT a nickname, sensei. Okay, that said, I do have a small, small error there. Okay, SDL_start input. This is going to require parameter of my window. Okay, and then I scroll all the way down here. SDL_key code. The key SYM.SYM is wrong. This is apparently for SDL2, so I could go ahead and check. That's line 49. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Okay, let's go ahead and paste it here. Go with Shift Enter and say something like, let's say, I feel like the line 49 is wrong because I get a red underline, and also the SDL underscore. Okay, what was the function? Was it start text input? Okay, it was start text input, the SDL underscore start text inputs. There we go. What up, guys? There we go. Okay, with a pair of parentheses, required a parameter of my windows, so I added that ... Okay, hiding is Maggie's. I appreciate you joining the stream. That's it, people. You're right. That's something smells wrong in your code, and I'm proud you noticed it. Honestly, the compiler noticed it before I blew it up in your face. Get over here. Let's say straighten your spine. Let's break this down. Mistake 1. Start text input does not take a window in SDL3. You added this. This is wrong in SDL3. The function is... Okay, it does say I need a parameter of window. The documentation is Spartan, but SDL3 changed a lot from SDL2. Your red underline at line 49. The error is not the line itself. The error comes from somewhere earlier, causing the interlessons to... Okay, the real issue is the function call. Wait, hold up, guys. Okay, when I actually go with start text input, I feel that is wrong. Okay, because apparently it does say, like, it literally says that I require parameters. So it says I do require a parameter here, so I do gotta add a window parameter. Okay, maybe I could like fix the key controls myself, but what does the SDL_key code do? So SDL_key code key equals to event.key.key sym. Okay, let's go ahead and copy this. Gibson/ChatGPT back here. Let me paste it. Go with Shift Enter and say something like, let's say, the e.key.key.sym is wrong. Okay, is wrong, and also the SDL underscore, what was the function name? Start text input. The start text input function does require a window parameter. I'm saying that because I do see a red underline, and when I hover over my function, it says that it requires SDL underscore window. Okay, so it says that it requires a local variable from the SDL underscore Windows function. People, it says cracking your knuckles because you have just stumbled into one of SDL3's most annoying traps. You're not wrong, but you're mixing two different versions of SDL3 in your head. Let's straighten this out before your stream witnesses your descent into madness. The truth, there are two different SDL3 API floatings around. Version A, the old builds, okay. Version B, the stable, but it does not work. Okay, Haring Coffee, I appreciate you joining the stream. Try saving the file, sometimes that clears things. Honestly, I could actually try because I feel like my file is saved. If I did Control S, it does save. Hold up. Some Unicode characters in this file could not be saved in the current code page. Do you want to resave the file as Unicode in order to maintain your data? Huh. Okay, what if I go with something like yes? Okay, wait, what if I run the code? Are you using normal chat or chat in project? Honestly, I am using a normal chat. Okay, that said, let's read the whole thing. Okay, you have downloaded a version that uses old signatures. SDL3 had several API changes during development. Different people have different builds. That's where you're getting red underlines. The fix you need, okay, for your version, since your compiler is demanding a window for text input, okay, good, keep it. That means your copy of SDL3 requires it. It does. Second, fix your event key is wrong for your version, but you mistyped it in your message. Keyed SYM. If your code has keyed SYM, that is absolutely wrong. Okay, most likely correct for your version is SDL underscore key code. Okay, alternative legacy format, SDL underscore key code. Okay. Some builds use this beta, SDL underscore key. Okay, I think I'll try all three. Firstly, let's go ahead and try the first one first. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy that. Let's go ahead and paste it here. Okay, that part is wrong. Let's try the second one. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy that. And guys, if this did not work, I might actually look into the documentations. Okay, this was a bit close, but it still doesn't work. Let me try the last one. Let's copy that and let's go ahead and paste it here. There we go. Okay, this works apparently. Alright, perfect. Okay, SDL underscore key equals to key.key works. So event.key.key works. Now, if I did Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. So I get my first window here. Okay, and I get my second window here. So what is the purpose of the window? Can I type something? I cannot type something. I do get my windows here though. Okay, let's go with something like Control A, Control C. Use e.key instead. Honestly, yeah, that did work. Okay, that's it. Let's get sensei/ChatGPT up here. Let's go ahead and paste this. Go with Shift Enter and say something like Sensei, this works. Exclamation. Okay, that said, what output did I expect? Question mark. I got a black window and a console where I could not write anything. Okay, let's see. People, good, you got it working. That means you're using the SDL3 version where SDL underscore start input with a window parameter is correct. E.key.key is the correct key field. You're locked into the right track, but let me tell you why you're seeing a black window and no typing and why you should not panic. What you should expect right now, your current code does not render any text, does not show a UI, does not show typing inside the window, only prints the text to the console when you press enter, only collects text inside the background. Your program is working, you just can't see anything yet. Because you're running graphical SDL window, the console is not automatically focused when the game is running, so when you type, the text goes into the game input buffer. But nothing is shown and you won't see it until you press enter. How to test that it actually works? Click inside your SDL window, type anything, press enter. You should see something like player typed hello in the console. If you saw that in your input, the function is perfect. Okay, why you can't see what you typed? Because you have not drawn a text yet. Okay, I think let's try pressing enter and see what happens. Okay, so I get my first window and second window here. Why your AI sounds different? Honestly, does it? Okay, so now if I were to hit enter. Okay, so it says player typed. Did I type something? Let's try typing something. Okay, I can't type anything, but if I hit enter, it does work though. Okay, so it says player typed. What happens if I hit backspace? Nothing happens. Okay, I think I see what this actually means now. Hold up, it says player typed input text. I don't have an input text yet. Okay, wait, let me go ahead and Control-C, copy that. Or actually, let me just get some say/ChatGPT here. Okay, let's go ahead and say something like, let's say I tried clicking enter, it did work, exclamation. Okay, it just says player typed. Okay, just says player type though. Was there something else, people? You didn't type anything before pressing enter, did you? You clicked the window, pressed enter, your game said player typed with nothing after. That means one thing, you pressed enter without actually typing characters. Your input system is working perfectly. You just gave it an empty string. Think of it like sending a text message. Okay, click inside the window, type something like hello, then press enter. Okay, let's try that. Project keeps memory recognizable, I see. Okay, so let's get my first window here. Let's get this here. Okay, now let's type something like hello. I can't see anything, but if I type enter, that does work. I did not think this is gonna work. Let's type something like how's your day? Okay, it does work. This was kind of shocking actually. It's actually kind of okay, I think I should learn how this works now. Okay, so initially I created a start text input to start my text input. Then I created a event variable, a while loop, okay, and it is running boolean variable. Then a standard string called text input, which is set to an empty string for the time being. Then I went for like event checks or like my event loop. I went with if my event type is quit, I exit my game. If my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore text underscore input, my input text is gonna increase, so I'm gonna plus equals to that by my event.text. Okay, so it's whatever the text the user sent. Howdy, DJK, I appreciate you joining the stream. And then I add another if statement that says if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down. SDL underscore key codes is structure. What does the structure do? The SDL virtual key representation values of this type are used to represent keyboard keys using current layout of the keyboard. These values include Unicode values representing the unmodified character that would be generated by pressing the key or SDL key. I think I see. How do you make your ChatGPT talk in that style? Honestly, I just set it to like talk in caps type stuff. Okay, that said, if key equals to SDL's key is backspace and not input text dot empty, input text dot pop back. Okay, I think I see. I just need some practice in writing this part. And then if my key equals to SDL's key is returned, then I go with a standard console output with an insertion operator that says player typed input text, okay, with a / new line, and then input text dot clear. Excuse me, guys. Okay, I actually think I understand what this means. I might have to write this code a couple of times though. Okay, that said, maybe I'm just gonna be copying this part and then I'm gonna delete everything because I wanna see if I actually know how to type this out myself. So to start off, I'm gonna be including a pair of ankle braces. Let's say I wanna include IO stream. And then since I am gonna be using SDL3, I'm gonna include SDL3 and the header files for SDL. So I'm gonna go with SDL.h. And then lastly, I'm going to be including... Okay, actually, I forgot what all to include. Well, guys, I might look at my own reference code while typing this part because I actually don't remember much. Okay, so I do need to include string as well. I haven't worked with the string much. Let me get this in the other tab because I do want to see a reference while I actually type this out because I don't remember the function memorized. Okay, that said, let me go ahead and include string now. So I'm going to go ahead and include my string. And then I'm going to go all the way down here. Now, I'm going to be creating a main function. So I'm going to go with integer main. And my main function is going to be requiring two parameters. The first parameter is going to be an integer of argc. The second parameter is going to be a character, which is technically a pointer towards an array of argv. Okay, then I go with a pair of curly braces. Now, inside of my main function, apparently I gotta initialize my SDL first, okay? And then I gotta create a window, so let's do that first. So I'm gonna go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's say something like if not SDL underscore init. What up guys, this is going to be capitalized in it. There we go. And then I'm going to go with SDL underscore init underscore video. So if the video section of my SDL was not initialized properly, firstly, I'm going to be displaying a error message. So I'm going to go with a standard C error with an insertion operator. Let's say something like SDL underscore init error. Okay, and then I go with something like another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me an error. So I'm gonna go with something like SDL underscore the get error function. This function is gonna actually get me an error. Then I'm gonna go with a standard line ending with a semicolon. Okay, it's adapted / copied as style. Okay, and then lastly, I'm gonna go ahead and return one saying something went wrong in this block of code. So go check it out. Okay, and then I ended with a semicolon. Now, once I'm done with initializing my SDL, I'm gonna go ahead and add a comment that says something like create window. Okay, here's the thing. Do I just want to create a window? Because I could do that, but I want to create my window and my renderer at the same time because later on in the future projects, I would need my renderer as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and create my window and renderer. Now, to create my window and renderer, I would need two local variables. The first local variable is going to be a variable that consists of all the attributes of my SDL underscore windows structure. I'm going to be calling this a window and setting that to be equal to nullptr, which is basically a placeholder for pointers. And then I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore renderer. This is the renderer's structure. I'm going to set that equal to a pointer of my renderer, which is going to be set to nullptr as well. Okay, now that I've created the two local variables that I need, I'm going to be using the function that actually creates both my window and my renderer at the same time. So I could use the SDL underscore create a window and a renderer function. Okay, now my create window and renderer function does require a few parameters. The first parameter is going to be a title / a caption for my window. So I'm going to go with something like SDL3 window, I don't know, maybe created. And then I'm gonna add a comma. The second and third parameter is gonna be a width and height for a window. So instead of just going with raw numbers like 1000 or 800, I'm gonna create a few game variables. This game variables section is gonna have my basic variables like the general game variables. For example, a width variable which could be set to something like 1000 ending with a semicolon. And then a constant integer of a height variable which could be set to 800 ending with a semicolon. Now I'm going to be using my width variable and my height variable here. Okay, and the fourth parameter is going to be a flag for my window. If you guys don't want to add a flag, you guys could go with 0, but I do want to add a flag that makes my window resizable. Okay, am I the only one watching horizontal live streams? Honestly, I would recommend you guys to actually watch the horizontal ones because you guys could see my whole window compared to the vertical ones. That said, I'm gonna next up go ahead and use the SDL underscore window underscore resizable function. This function actually makes my window resizable. And then lastly, my fifth and sixth parameter is going to be the memory address of my window and the memory address of my renderer. So I'm going to go with something like a address of operator window. There we go. What up guys, there we go. An address of operator window and then an address of operator for my renderer. Okay, perfect. And then I'm going to go ahead and end my entire function with a semicolon. Now that I've created both my window and my renderer, I'm going to use a if statement to check if they were not created properly, because apparently in C++ we got to give ourselves an error if something went wrong. So I'm going to go with something like if not window, if my window was not created properly, or not a renderer, if my renderer was not created properly, then I'm going to do something. Firstly, I'm going to display myself an error message, so I'm going to go with a standard C error with an insertion operator that says something like SDL underscore create window and renderer error. There we go. Okay, and then I go with another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me an error. So I'll use the SDL underscore get errors this function. This function actually gets me an error. Then I'm going to go with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Now, if either my window or my renderer was not created properly, I do want to exit my SDL, so I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. And lastly, I'm going to go ahead and return 1. Okay, and that's pretty much it for creating my window and renderer. Once I'm done with that, I gotta go ahead and use the SDL underscore start text input function. So I don't know, I could add a comment here that says something like start text input. Okay, and then I'm gonna use the SDL underscore start text input function. Text input, there we go. Okay, this starts my input. Is this the correct function name? So it's start text input. Start text. Oh, I wrote start texture. There we go. Okay, start text input is a function that does require a parameter of my window. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and end this with a semicolon. Now, once I'm done with this, I watched your short video in which Sensei used she to refer to you. Guys, that's I actually thought, like, when I actually uploaded that, I thought it was kind of funny because, like, Sensei can't be assuming gender the big 2023. Guys can't be getting cancelled. Okay, that's it. Now, once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and create my main loop. Now, for my main loop, firstly, I'm gonna go ahead and create, let's say something like a boolean variable of is running. This is gonna check if my program is running. I'm initially gonna be setting this equal to be true, ending with a semicolon. Okay, this is where I'm gonna be looking at the reference because I don't know like the functions for like my inputs and all that stuff. Okay, so I create a event variable as well. And then I gotta create a standard string of input variables. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a standard string of something like input text. So I'm gonna go with the input text variable, which is initially going to be set to an empty string, ending with a semicolon. Once I'm done with that, I'm gonna create a event variable as well. So I'm gonna go with something like SDL underscore events structure, which has a event local variable. The SDL underscore events structure consists of all the SDL events. Okay, and then apparently now I gotta go ahead and create my main loop. So I'm gonna go with something like while is running, while my program is running, or while my is running is set to true. I'm gonna go ahead and do something. Firstly, I'm gonna add a comment that says something like event loop. This is basically gonna be a while loop inside of my while loop, also known as a nested loop. Sup, Vic, hiding Ari, and I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, that said, I'm gonna go ahead and add another while loop here. So I'm gonna go with something like while a pair of parentheses. Now, my inner event while loop requires a parameter of the SDL underscore poll events function. My SDL underscore poll events function requires a parameter of the memory address of my event variable. Basically, what the SDL underscore poll events function does is it like looks for all the events that I'm going to be looking for inside of a while loop. If any of those events is met, it does what I tell it to do. Okay, sup, big hiding Aaron, I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, that's it. How do you close this part? There we go. Okay, that's it. Now, once I'm done with my while loop, I'm gonna look for event type. So I'm gonna go ahead and check something like if my event.type equals to. Remember me? Honestly, I think I do remember you guys. I feel like my memory is kind of vague, but I do like remember most of you guys. That's it. I'm gonna check if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore quit. So if my event type is quit, if my user did click the top X button to exit my window, I'm going to be setting my is running boolean variable to be false, ending with a semicolon. Now, once I'm done adding my quit event type, I'm going to add a few other event types. this is where I actually gotta look at the reference because I don't know these function names. So the second, the second event type is gonna require an if statement as well. I'm gonna check if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore text underscore input. So this is a text input event type. Then I'm gonna go with the pair of curly braces, and then I'm gonna be increasing my input text's my input text's variable. I'm gonna increase that by my event.text.text. Okay, I actually gotta ask what the event.text.text part does, so I might add a comment here. Okay, hold up guys, maybe not a comment here, maybe like beside it. Okay, what does event.text.text mean? Question mark. In case you guys couldn't see it, I like said what does event.text.text mean here. Okay, that's it. Now once I'm done with my my initial event type, or my first or my second event type, I'm gonna do something else. Seems like I've gotten a better grasp of SDL than you were on the first day. Honestly, that does make sense. I feel like I am trying to understand how SDL works. I just gotta get used to a few more syntaxes. Okay, next up, Python or C++, which one is better? Okay, I would say like Python is pretty fun, but personally for me, I feel like C++ is like better because it's more challenging than Python, because Python, I mostly use like different kinds of function and like it makes stuff really easy for us. I would like go with Python if I just want to like relax while programming. C++ does make us think a bit more. I feel like that's kind of fun. Okay, are you Sri Lankan? Honestly, no. Okay, that's it. Now, once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and add another event type. So I'm going to go with something like if, a pair of parentheses. Let's say if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down. So if my event type is down, if any of my keyboard buttons are currently being pushed down, I'm going to do something. Okay, firstly, I'm going to use the SDL underscore key codes structure. I haven't actually heard of the structure. SDL underscore key codes structure. Okay, this is going to be like lowercase code. There we go. Okay, what does the structure do? Doesn't it say what it does? I'm going to set it equal to be key, and then I'm going to set that equal to events.key.key. Okay. How old are you? Honestly, I am like 17 years old. That's it. I am going to be turning like 18 really soon. I am kind of excited for that. My birthday is the January 5th. Might have a special stream for that day. Maybe, guys, not sure. Okay, that said, once I'm done with this, I'm going to go ahead and end this with a semicolon. Maybe copy that comment that says what does this do and like paste it here as well, because I want to ask what does the SDL underscore key codes structure mean. Now, once I'm done with that, I gotta add another if statement to check something. So I'm going to go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's say if my key equals to SDL's key underscore, let's say something like backspace. So if my key is backspace, and so I'm going to go with something like and. Okay, why is my key having a red underline here? And not input text.empty, not input text.empty, text.empty. Okay, and if my input text is not empty, hold up guys, let me fix my typo real quick. Okay guys, it's kind of hard to look at a reference while writing this part. Okay, can you let me know the difference between C and Python? Honestly, I would say like only the syntaxes to me is like kind of different, but actually C++ is much faster than Python. C++ is like for speed, Python is like for the brains and all that stuff. That said, I feel like C++ is a bit more fun, even though we gotta do a bit more programming and all that stuff. Okay, which other programming languages do you know? Honestly, I do know C++ and Python. That's it, hiding packs, clouds. I appreciate you joining the stream. Whose hand is it behind you? Honestly, guys, it is my hand. Okay, that's it. Why do I see a red underline here? My while loop does end here. Did I like miss something here? Alright, guys, let me check this part really carefully. So if my key equals to if my SDL's key is backspace and this thing, okay, then I'm gonna do something. But if I go with the pair of curly braces, did I fix it? I'll go with input text dot pop. So I'm gonna pop underscore back my text, and the pop back is a function used for, I'm pretty sure the pop back function is used for like vectors. Okay, why does my key have a red underline there? Okay, my SDL underscore key code. Okay, this thing I think it should be outside of my if statement here. Huh. Okay, no way a zesty programmer, guys. I'm not zesty. Okay, that said, Mern Stack for 2026, is that a good option? Honestly, I haven't like heard about Mern Stack. Might look into it. C++ is very close to your hardware in short. Oh, actually, that actually sounds kind of cool. Okay, why are you repeating this line VIS? VIS? Am I repeating something? Uh, Honestly, I don't think like I'm repeating the line. Okay, that said, hold up, guys. Let me actually try to think where I messed up here. Should this part be inside of my event loop? Okay, let's see. So, I open the pair of parentheses there, and then I close it here. Oh, I think I see. I think I see. Maybe this is how it should be. There we go. This makes more sense now. Okay, so my if statement, it starts there. I gotta add another to close this up. Okay, so I add an outer if statement and inner if statement to look my events. So to look if my key is backspace, if my backspace is being pushed. Okay, I guess it's true. No offense though, I ain't judging, man. Oh, I see. Can you give a brief of what you're coding? Honestly, I am like whatchamacallit, learning the basics and like the basic syntax of like input and like SDL3. Like if I type something on my terminal, it's going to be whatchamacallit. If I type something on my window, it's going to be showing on my terminal. Then eventually, I am going to be using my render and like displaying those text on the screen. So like my player can like talk to my NPC type stuff, if that makes any sense. But guys, I'm still learning the basics of it. It's kind of I think it's not that complex. I just gotta like learn these basic event checks and everything. Okay, now once I'm done with my if statement here, I'm gonna go ahead and add another if statement. Okay, this if statement, is it still inside? It's so hard because like I'm looking at whatchamacallit, one of my previous codes that I like already wrote before this. I'm just writing this for practice. It's kind of hard to actually read that. How old are you? Honestly, I am 17 years old. That's it. I'm going to be turning really soon, guys. Kind of excited for that. Okay, let's add another if statement here. So I'm going to go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's say if my key, so I'm going to go ahead and type something like if my key equals to SDL's key. If my SDL's key is return. I honestly haven't heard of the return key though. Then I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna go with the pair of curly braces and then add a standard console output with an insertion operator. That is gonna say something like player typed. Okay, and then I'm gonna add another insertion operator. Let's go with something like my input text variable with another insertion operator. Okay, input text with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Okay, and once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go with something like my input text dot declare function. This clears my input text. Okay, actually, I think I see what happened here. Okay, my doubt is when the code on Python gets understood by the computer, is my Python code has been converted to C program? Okay, my doubt is when we code on Python gets understood by the computer. Honestly, it does. Like people usually do mix different programming languages, but I haven't learned how do we do that yet. Okay, why SDL? Why not Vulkan Direct? Why not Vulkan or Direct X12? Honestly, the reason I was actually planning to like learn Vulkan, but like many of you guys did say me not to like go to Vulkan just yet and learn SDL because SDL does require more programming, but then it does like teach us the basics and what happens like behind the scenes and all that stuff. 17 Dankut going with the coding. Honestly, I appreciate you. Nathan, is that how you pronounce your name? SDL old and stocks. Honestly, I am using SDL3. That is like a newer version of SDL. That said, I'm trying to figure out the text input. I think I'm pretty much done. Now I just go ahead and exit outside of my while loop, and then I'm gonna go with something like, hold up, maybe I'll go here. I'm gonna go with something like SDL underscore destroy window. So I go ahead and destroy my window. This is gonna have my window variable ending with a semicolon, and then SDL underscore destroy renderer. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and destroy my renderer as well. This requires a renderer parameter ending with a semicolon. There we go. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and quit my SDL. So I'm gonna go with SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'm gonna return 0. Now, if audit control has to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. So I get my first window popped up here. Okay, apparently it's whatever I type in my window up here is going to be shown down here. Bro, okay, how do you get fluent in English speaking, bro? I think the more we speak, the better we get. You look Indian. Oh, I see. Man, what's with uh you and him looking Indian? Okay, that's it. I'm gonna type something like, "Hi, how's your day?" If I were to hit enter, it says, "Hi, how's your day?" What if I type something like, "Help!" exclamation? If I were to hit enter, it is gonna say help exclamation. What if I type something like hi? Then I delete it, clicking backspace, and type something like hello. Okay, it does work. I do want to learn this worse than any. I mean, really bad now, because I did write this, but I did look at reference while writing this part. I feel I understand it though. I go with my event.type, it equals to SDL underscore event underscore text underscore input. If my event type is event underscore text underscore input, then I increase my input text by my event.text.text, means the current text that my event actually typed. And then if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down, why do I use the SDL key code? What up, guys? I have a few questions. Why do I use the structure here? Why is the structure set to event.key.key? Okay, and then why do I add this? Okay, maybe I add the backspace event to like just delete stuff that I write, because like I pop back. What does the return mean here? Okay, let's go with control A, control C. Let's get some /chat GPT here. Let's go ahead and get that there. Extend it all the way here. Okay, guys, I have a bunch of questions after writing this. So I'm gonna go ahead and paste this, go with shift enter, see something like sensei. I did write this using the, let's say something like reference code, but I have a bunch of questions. The one of them, a bunch of questions. One of them is that what does the SDL underscore key code structure do, and why did I need it? Question mark. Okay, hiding Phantom, I appreciate you joining the stream. Nah, that's foul. You took a shower today? Honestly, I did like all my hair as well, because I feel like it's been a while since I like washed my hair, because like usually it's such a chore to wash it. That's nothing anime girl, bro, sensei. Okay, I didn't get my answer, bro. How did you get fluent in English speaking? Honestly, I think I answered that. It's like, usually the more we speak, the better we get. Okay, that's sad, because many Python libraries are written in C language. Oh, I see. I don't understand. Why didn't you use switch case? Also, you can just call window API for keyboard input hook. Honestly, I do like usually use switches, but this was like when I do actually try to understand the concept, but try going with the very basic type stuff like using if statements. And then later on, once I understand the concept, I move on to switches. You're such a nerd, guys. I feel like that's the perfect way to call me. Okay, what's your take on coding agents? Honestly, I haven't like heard of them. Okay, why are you role-playing with ChatGPT, guys? Because I feel that makes it more entertaining. That's it. Listen, people, time to break this down, or you'll be stumbling in the dark like a newbie forever. Okay, let's go step by step. SDL underscore event and event.text.text. SDL underscore event is a union that holds all kinds of input events. Okay, I do know that. Like, SDL event consists of all my SDL's events. Keyboard, mouse, window events, etc. When you type, SDL creates a SDL text input event. When you type, SDL creates a SDL text input event. Inside that event, there's a structure called text, which has a member text. Yeah, confusing. Input plus equals to event.text.text. Okay, this is literally the characters this player typed. SDL handling like shift caps lock and international characters for you. SDL key code and event.key.key. SDL underscore key down. Excuse me, guys. Interesting, huh? Okay, SDL underscore key down is a event triggered with any, when any key is pressed, not necessarily a printable character. SDL underscore key codes structure is a type that SDL uses to tell which key was pressed. Oh, I see. Okay, that makes so much sense now. Love the Zesty accent, liked and subscribed. Honestly, I appreciate you, FBR. That's it, guys. I don't think I'm actually Zesty. Zesty hand movement too, guys. I feel it's to interpret what I'm talking. That's Sensei equals nickname or chat GPT at early days. Sensei equals nickname chat GPT in phone. Sensei equals nickname of chat GPT on live streams. Am I right? That is actually kind of correct. Okay, that said, SDL key codes is structure key that equals to key.key. If key equals to SDL underscore backspace, here you're checking if the player pressed backspace or enter. You need SDL underscore key code because events.key.key could be any arrow key, F1 control, you get the idea. Without this, SDL wouldn't know which special key the player pressed. Oh, I see, that makes so much sense now. Why you need both text input, SDL underscore text input, printable text, only letters, numbers, symbols, the key down, all keys including backspace, enter, control, etc. Without SDL key down, how would you detect backspace? Without text input, how would you get the actual letters type? Okay, why your window is now black? Right now your SDL's window is just blank canvas. You're printing text only in the console. SDL doesn't automatically draw your string on the window. If you want to see that text inside your game window, you need SDL underscore TDF text render library. I see. Okay guys, I think I'm ready to write this on my own. Okay, Vivek, the sassy IT man. Guys, I don't think I'm sassy. That's said. Alright, his name is Vivek. Didn't even notice. Okay, that's said. Now, I firstly check for text inputs. Maybe I do want to still look at the reference while writing this code again so I get a hang of it. Okay, maybe I did sensei slash chat GPT all the way back here. Because usually I prefer to, whatchamacallit, until I don't get like a grasp of the code, I do want to like look at the reference and like write the code until I don't like get a muscle memory hang of it. Okay, say SDL more. SDL more, does that actually mean something? Okay, that's it. Now, let me go ahead and Control A to delete everything. Now, let me go ahead and start off by including a pair of ankle braces. Let's say I want to include IO stream. I'm also going to be including SDL3 slash SDL3 slash SDL.h, which is SDL and SDL's header files. Okay, this is going to be SDL. Okay, and that is going to be SDL's header files. Now, once I'm done with that, I'm going to be including, let's say, something like my string as well, because I will be using standard strings. That's it. Now let's go ahead and create a main function. So I'm going to go with something like integer main, add a pair of parentheses, and then a pair of curly braces. Okay, you're very informative, Vivek. Just messing with you, like your content. Honestly, I appreciate you, FBR. That actually means the world to me. Okay, my phone's battery is gonna die. Bye, bro. Good night. Honestly, I appreciate you sticking through the stream, but so I'll catch you next stream. Charge your battery and make sure to get 8 hours of sleep tonight. That said, my main function is going to be requiring two parameters. The first parameter is going to be an integer of argc. The second parameter is going to be a character, which is technically a pointer towards an array of argv. Now, inside my main function, I'm going to be initializing my SDL while checking if it was not initialized properly. So I'm going to go with something like if not SDL underscore init, if my SDL wasn't initialized properly. I'm going to check if my SDL's video section was not initialized properly. And if it was not, I'm going to display a error message. So I'm going to go with something like a standard C error with an insertion operator. That is going to say something like SDL underscore init error. So I get a SDL underscore init error. Now let's add another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me an error. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore the get error function. Okay, this function actually gets me an error. Okay, and then I'm going to add a pair of parentheses, go with another insertion operator with a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Okay, hiding next in, is that how I pronounce your name? I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and return one ending with a semicolon. Alright, once I'm done, initializing my SDL, I'm going to add a comment that says something like game variables. This is going to be where I add my basic game variables. For example, a constant integer of, let's say, something like width variable, which is going to be equal to 1000 ending with a semicolon, and then a constant integer of height variable, which is going to be equal to something like 800 ending with a semicolon. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to add another comment that says something like create window and a renderer. Okay, so now I'm going to be creating both my window and my renderer at the same time. Okay, Lamau, he ignored. Guys, did I ignore? I think I actually replied to the comment. Okay, that's it. Now to create my window and my renderer, I'm going to require two variables. The first variable is going to be a variable which is going to be a pointer towards my SDL underscore windows structure. I'm going to be calling it something like window, which is initially going to be set to null PTR ending with a semicolon. Bye bye, man. Just keep doing your stuff. Honestly, I appreciate you, Nathan. Is that your pronounce your name though? Nathanie? Oh, I think it's Nathaniel. Okay, guys, I think like I messed up the spelling because usually I do prefer like what you call it, pronouncing you guys' name correct. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna create a local variable for my renderer as well, so I'm gonna set that equal to something like nullptr ending with a semicolon. Now that I'm done creating both my window and my renderers as local variables, I'm gonna use the function that actually does create it. So I'm gonna use the SDL underscore create window and renderer function. This function creates both my window and my renderer, but it does require a few parameters. The first parameter is going to be a title slash a caption for my window. I'm going to set to be something like SDL3 window created. There we go. Okay, then I go with a comma, and now I'm going to be adding my width variable and my height variable, so I'm going to go with something like width and height. There we go. Okay, then I go with another comma. Now, for the fourth parameter, I'm going to be requiring excuse me guys, I'm going to be requiring a flag for my window. You guys could go with 0 if you guys didn't want to add a flag, but I want to add a flag that makes my window resizable. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore window underscore resizable. There we go. Okay, the resizable flag. This makes my window resizable. Lastly, for the fifth and sixth parameter, I'm going to be adding the memory address, or like I'm going to be requiring the memory address of my window local variable and my renderer local variable. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to end my function with a semicolon. Okay, if I speak normally, I can understand. Guys, I think I should actually speak slowly because like many of you guys did say me that I speak kind of quick. I'll try speaking a bit slowly. Now that I'm done creating both my window and my renderer, I'm going to use a if statement to, let's say, check if they were not created properly, because apparently in like C++, we do got to check and give ourselves an error if something went wrong. Okay, stress the word as. Okay, so I'm going to check something like if not window, if my window was not created properly, or if not renderer, if my renderer was not created properly, then I'm going to do something. Firstly, I'm going to display myself a error text. I'm going to go with a standard C error with an insertion operator. Okay, what are you making? I don't know coding or anything. I just stumbled here, so enlighten me. Honestly, for the time being, if you guys are like familiar with like Pygames and like Python, SDL3 is basically the same as Pygame, but Pygame just works with Python. SDL3 works with C, C++, and C Sharp. So apparently what I'm trying to make is like create a window, and then I'm going to type something on my keyboard, and when I hit enter, I am going to be seeing that on my Windows' terminal, if that makes any sense. And eventually I'm going to be adding decoration. So like if I type something in my window, it displays, if I type something on my keyboard, it displays on my window. And then if I get better with that, I'm going to make like a whole NPC conversation type stuff, like you can like chat with NPC in games, if that makes any sense, guys. Bro, use Raylib is better than SDL3. It is amazing. Honestly, I did want to use Raylib, like I have been like thinking to use that as well. That said, I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore create window and a renderer error. So if either my window or my renderer was not created properly, I'm going to give myself a create window and renderer error. Then I go with another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me an error. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore get errors as function. Then I go with another insertion operator of a standard line ending with a semicolon. Now, if either my window or my renderer was not created properly, I am going to quit my SDL. So I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I return 1. Okay. No, repeat please. Repeat. Honestly, so basically what I did here was I checked if my window or my renderer was not created properly, because like in C++, we do gotta check and give ourselves an error, because like we don't actually get the error that we got. We gotta like make our own errors and give it to ourselves. And then if my window or my renderer was not created properly, I displayed myself a error text by using the standard C error. This is technically my function name. I say my SDL underscore create window and renderer function had an error here. Then I use the function that actually gets me an error, and then I went with a new line. Now, if my window or my renderer was not created properly, I quit my SDL, then I return 1 saying something went wrong. Okay, now once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down, and this is where I'm going to be adding, let's say, something like my text input. Okay, instead of my text input, I might go ahead and add a comment that says something like a main loop. This is going to be where my main loop is going to be at. Okay, now this is going to be the part where I might actually need whatchamacallit, look at the reference to like see the new function names. So I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore starts text input function. There we go. So this is the function that actually jumpstarts my text input. So like my text input is now allowed in SDL3. Although it does require parameter of my window, then I'm going to end it with a semicolon. And then I'm going to be needing a few other variables. For example, a boolean variable of is running, which tells me if my program is currently running. I'm going to set it to be true initially, because when I run my code, I want my program to actually be running. And then I'm going to create a event variable, because I will be looking for event types. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore events structure, which is going to be having an event variable representing it, ending with a semicolon. Okay, once I'm done with that, is there anything else that I might need? I might need a standard string variable as well, which is going to be, let's say something like a input text. So it's going to be a input text variable, which is going to be set to an empty string ending with a semicolon. How old are you? Honestly, I am 17 years old. That's it. I am going to be turning 18 really soon, guys. Kind of excited for that. I might actually have a special stream because my birthday is the January 5th. Maybe not a special stream. I don't know. Okay, next up, once I'm done with that, apparently I gotta now go ahead and create my actual while loop. So I'm gonna go ahead and create my main while loop. So I'm gonna go with something like while is running, while my program is running, or while my is running is set to true. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna add a comment that says something like event loop. This is going to be where all my intent stuff is going to be happening right now, because I'm not going to be working on my actual main loop. Instead, I'm just going to be working with event types, because I do just want to learn the basic keywords and all that stuff. Stop yelling, curry fingers. Guys, I'm actually not yelling. I feel it's my mic. Okay, that's it. Now, my event loop is going to require a parameter of the SDL underscore poll events function. My SDL underscore poll events function does require parameter as well. It requires the memory address of my event variable. Then I go with the pair of curly braces. Okay, how doing? Ajapal, is that your pronounce your name? I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and add a if statement now. I'm going to add a if statement, and let's say I'm going to look for event type. So I'm going to go with something like if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore quit. So if my event type is quit, if my user did exit my window, I'm going to do something. I'm going to set my is running boolean variable to be false, ending with a semicolon. This basically exits my, or like, this basically exits my entire while loop. So now my while loop is no longer running if my player exits my window. 17, dang, you got skills, bro. Honestly, I appreciate you going to that pronunciation. That actually means a word to me, guys. Okay, now once I'm done with that, I'm going to be adding another if statement. This is the stuff that's like a bit new to me, so I got to get a lot of practice with this part. Okay, so after the poll event, I'll check if my event type is text input. So I check if my event dot type equals to let's say something like SDL underscore event underscore text underscore input. So if my event type is text input, if my user is typing something on my screen, I'm gonna go ahead and do something. Where are you from, bro? Honestly, I used to answer a lot, but many of you guys did say me to avoid that, so I do like avoid saying that for like safety reasons. Okay, will Skip can't understand what the intent is. Maybe we'll check later. Honestly, that does make sense because I'm almost done with this code as well. So if you guys do like come back in like 5-ish minutes, then I can like show you guys what I'm actually doing here. Okay, that said, I'm gonna check if my event type is text input. If it is, then I'm gonna go ahead and do something. So it says if event.type equals to text input, I'm gonna go ahead and increase my input text variable. So input text variable by, let's say something like my event.text. Okay, I think I spelled event wrong. There we go. Okay, perfect. And then I'm gonna go ahead and end my if statement with a semicolon. That's pretty much it for my second event type. Okay, that adds a content, or like that adds a text to my text input. Now I'm gonna add another if statement. Let's see, to check what? To check if any of my buttons are being pushed down. My SDL2 project reached 2100 LOC. It's not. It's not bragging. My code is complete mess spaghetti in C89. Oh, I see. That actually sounds kind of cool though. Wait, LOC's lines of code, 2100 lines of code, actually 21,000 lines of code? Guys, it's actually crazy. How do you guys write that, that long of a code? That said, I did like whatchamacallit, I did hear some of you guys say like when the code is that long, we do like break the code in half, like half code goes in this file, half code goes in that file, then we like import everything in our main file type stuff. You guys could like fact check me though. Okay, that's it. Next up, I'm gonna see if my event.type equals to, let's say something like SDL underscore okay, event underscore key underscore down. So if my event type is down, if any of my buttons are currently being pushed down. Okay, I think I remember this part. I'm going to use the SDL underscore key codes structure, which is going to be having a key variable representing it that is going to be equal to, okay, this is the part that I don't remember. Okay, bro, what's this video about? I'm new to this channel. Honestly, technically, I am trying to like, my initial series is like programming for 258 series. My goal by the end of that series is to make a game in general that consists of AI logic in it. That said, I have a a C++ for 100 series, which is indented inside of my programming for 258 series. So I'm spending a good chunk of that 250 days learning C++, so like 100 days. Okay, and I'm basically just learning SDL3 right now because like this is like a kind of library that actually helps us like make games. It's technically like Py games, but a C++ version. Okay, that said, I'm gonna use the SDL underscore key codes structure, which has a key local variable representing it that is going to be equal to events.key.key. Okay, then I'm gonna go ahead and end this with a semicolon, and then I'm gonna add, let's say something like a if statement inside of it. So it's a if statement inside of the if statement, so a nested if statement. Excuse me guys, so I'm gonna check if my key equals to SDL's key is backspace. So I'm gonna check if my user click backspace and let's say something like not text input dot empty. Oh, I see. And my text input or my input text, okay, is not empty. So I'm gonna go with something like dot empty. Oh, I see actually what this means. So basically what this means, this is like if I want to delete some of my messages, if my key is backspace, if my user is clicking backspace, and I do have something written on my on my window, like on my terminal, I did write something, then I'm gonna go ahead and do something. I'm gonna go with something like input to text. Okay, I'm gonna go with input text dot pop underscore back. Okay, I wanna ask what the pop underscore back does here. I know it like deletes my text, but I know how to use this part in like vectors, but not in like the actual text input. Does it delete the whole text? Does it delete just like per letter of my text, if that makes any sense? Okay, that's it. I'm gonna go with another if statement now. The second if statement is gonna be in charge to check if my key is returned. If I hit enter. Okay, where are you from? Honestly, I used to answer much, but that's it. I did like avoid saying that for like safety reasons. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna go with something like, I see what return means. Apparently, return means enter. So if my key equals to if my SDL's key is returned, so I'm gonna go with something like return. Then I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna go with the row of curly braces and then add a standard. So let's go with a standard console output with an insertion operator that says something like player type. So let's go with something like player type. Guys, this is the reason I like love writing a code even if I don't understand it at the first, because like the more I write it, the more I understand what this stuff means. I actually understand what this means right now. Okay, then I'm gonna go ahead and add another insertion operator of my input text, okay, with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Now, once I'm done writing this, I'm gonna go ahead and delete my, or like clear my input text. I'm gonna go with something like input text, okay, dot clear. So my entire input text is cleared right now, ending with a semicolon. Okay, my way I do with a char vector, and I push back a character each time a key is down, and at the end it shows the vector That's how I do input text thingy. That actually is kind of smart. I feel like this stuff does the exact same stuff as well, because like whatever I type here, for example, if I type hello here, it's gonna first have H, then HE, then HEL, HELL, and HELLO. So it is technically like a vector type stuff. And I feel for the backspace, when I go with pop back, it just deletes like the first letters. So from the HELLO, it's gonna just remove the O, and I'll have HELL. I do want to like confirm that. That said, once I'm done with this, I feel like almost everything is done. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a comment here that says something like cleanup. Cleanup is basically once I exit my while loop. So this is like outside my while loop. For my cleanup, I do want to destroy my window first. I'm gonna go with something like SDL underscore destroy Windows' function, which is gonna have a Windows' parameter ending with a semicolon. Then I'm gonna be destroying my renderer as well. So I'll use the SDL underscore destroy renderers' function that does require renderers' parameter as well, ending with a semicolon. Then I'm gonna go ahead and quit my SDL, and lastly I'm gonna return 0 saying everything went good in this block of code. Okay, now if I need controllers to save the code and run the command, the moment of truth, guys, doesn't work. Okay, so I get my, there we go, so I get my first window here. Can you guys like see my window from here? Okay, and then I get my second window popped up all the way here. Let me actually get this here so you guys can actually see it. Okay, okay, are you going to TDF? Honestly, I feel like, are you talking about the TDF keyword, like the function in like SDL3 that actually displays the text on the window? Because I'm actually going to learn that. Watching stuff like this calms me. Honestly, it does sound kind of cool. Okay, that's it. Now for my window, I'm going to type something like hello. If I type hello and hit enter, in my console, it says hello. But the thing that I really want to do eventually is like add it in my actual window right here. Okay, and maybe I type something like hi with a bunch of eyes. I want to delete an eye. Okay, wait, hold up, guys. Let me type something like hello. I typed hello right now. If I hit backspace and hit enter, it should just say hell. Okay, so it removes like a letter from the end. I think I see how this works now. I think I see how this works. Okay, maybe I do hydrate my lips real quick, and this time I want to try writing this code but without a reference because I feel I understood the functions. Okay, so I look for my event type. I checked if my event type equals to event.key down. Okay, and then I use the keyword. Okay, I use the SDL underscore key code to structure, set a key local variable, then went with event.key.key, then added a few if statements. First if statement to check if my backspace is pressed and not input text. I could use switches for this though. I could have I think I should use switches next. Okay, input text dot empty. If my input is not empty, then I do input dot popback. That removes a letter from the last of my text. And then I check if my SDL's key is returned. Return is technically the same as enter. If it is enter, I display the standard console output, and then I add an insertion operator of my text input, SDL underscore inline, and I clear my input. I think I see. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit Control A to copy everything and delete everything. This time I'm gonna be trying to write this without a reference because I feel like I did memorize the functions now. Okay, so firstly I'm gonna go ahead and include something. I'm gonna go ahead and include a pair of ankle braces. Let's say I want to include IO stream, and then let's say I want to include. I'm gonna go ahead and include, let's say, something like SDL3/SDL.h. This is basically SDL3 and SDL's header files. And then lastly, I'm gonna go ahead and include, let's say, string as well. This is the strings library because I will be using standard string. And then let's go ahead and create a main function. So I'm going to go with integer main, add a pair of parentheses. Now my main function requires two parameters. The first parameter is going to be an integer of argc. The second parameter is going to be a character, which is technically a pointer towards an array of argv. And then I go with a pair of curly braces. Now, inside my main function, I'm going to be using an if statement to initialize my SDL and also check if my SDL was not initialized properly. So I'm going to go with something like if not SDL underscore init. I'm going to check if my SDL underscore init underscore video section. So if the video section of my SDL was not initialized properly, I'm going to do something. Firstly, I'm going to be displaying a edit text. So I'm going to go with a standard C editor with an insertion operator. Hiding app, I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, so I'm gonna go with the standard C header with an insertion operator that says something like a SDL underscore init header. Then I'm gonna add another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me an header. So I'm gonna use the standard get headers as function, a SDL underscore get headers as function. Then I go with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'm going to return one saying something is wrong with this block of code, so go check it out. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and let's say add a few basic game variables. These are going to be like the general game variables that I don't actually, want to change much. So the first variable is going to be a constant integer of my Windows' width. I'm going to be setting that to be 1000, and then I'll go with something like a constant integer of my Windows' height, which is going to be equal to 800 ending with a semicolon. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to add another comment that says something like create a window and a renderer. So I'm gonna go ahead and create both my window and my renderer at the same time. But before I do that, I do gotta create two local variables. The first local variable is going to be a SDL underscore Windows structure. I'm going to be creating a pointer of my window, which is initially going to be set to null PTR. That is basically the placeholder for like pointers. And then I'm going to go with SDL underscore renderer as a structure, which is going to be having a renderer as pointer representing it. That is going to be equal to null PTR as well, ending with a semicolon. Now that I've created the two basic or local variables that I require, I'm going to use the SDL underscore create window and renderer as function. Basically, the create window and basically the SDL underscore create window and renderer as function does create both my window and my renderer at the same time. Although it does require a few parameters. Okay, the first parameter is going to be my title. My title is going to be something like SDL3 window. There we go, created. Okay, and then the second parameter is going to be my Windows' width and my Windows' height, which is technically my width variable and my height variable. The first parameter is going to be a flag for my window. If you guys don't want to add a Windows flag, you guys could go with 0, but I do want to add a flag that makes my window resizable. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore window underscore resizable function. This function makes my window resizable. And lastly, the fifth and sixth parameter is going to be the memory address of both my window local variable and my renderer local variable. So I'm going to go with the address of operator window and then the address of operator for my renderer ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. Now, once I'm done creating both my window and my renderer, apparently in C++ we do gotta add a if statement to check if they were not created properly, because if they were not, my compiler won't give me an error. I gotta give myself an error saying what was wrong. So I'm gonna go with something like if not window, if my window was not created properly, or not a renderer. If my renderer was not created properly, then I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna go ahead and add a standard C header with an insertion operator that, let's say, gives me something like a SDL underscore create. Whatever guys, not plus. SDL underscore create a window and a renderer header. Okay, basically what this means is I just said that my this SDL underscore create window and renderer function had a error, so go check it out. Okay, once I'm done with that, I'm going to add another insertion operator. And now let's use the function that actually gets me an error. So I'll use the SDL underscore get errors as function with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Okay, now if my window or my renderer was not created properly, I do want to quit my SDL, so I could use the SDL underscore quit function ending with a semicolon, and then I'm going to return one saying something is wrong in this block of code, so go check it out. Okay, that's pretty much it to create my window and renderer. Once I'm done creating those, I'm going to add another comment that says something like main loop. Okay guys, this is where the real tricky part comes now. This is like the new content that I was going through. So now for my main loop, I'm going to be creating two variables. And then with a semicolon. Okay, that's that. I'm going to go ahead and firstly create a boolean variable called something like is running, which is initially going to be set to true. This is a variable that tells my program is still currently running. And then I would need an event variable as well to look for my current event type. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore events structure, which is going to be represented by events as local variable. Once I'm done with that, let's see. I am going to be starting my input because I will be needing I will be using user inputs as well. So I could use the SDL underscore. Okay, I forgot this function name. Let me actually think. Start input text. Was this the function? Or was it something like start text input? There we go, guys, because this time I'm not using the reference to like actually see the function name, so I do gotta like remember this. Okay, that said, my start input text function does require a parameter of my window. Once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and create a standard strings variable called something like input text, which is going to be equal to, let's say, something like an empty string ending with a semicolon. Now, once I'm done creating these basic variables, I'm going to go ahead and create my main while loop. So I'm going to go with something like while is running, while my program is running, or while my is running is set to true, I'm going to do something. What is that function? Honestly, this function, basically the start text input function is like a function that like jumpstarts my text input. So now I can type something that's gonna be, if I type something on my window, it can be shown in my terminal, unless I don't like use logic that actually displays it on my window itself. Okay, he does not rely on AI. AI comes to him for help. Guys, I feel like I rely a lot on AI when it comes to learning. That said, why don't you use using namespace STD? Honestly, before, like, when I first started C++, many of you guys did, like, recommend me to use using namespace STD, but the reason I don't use it is because eventually in, like, bigger projects, not prefixing with standard can, like, cause name conflicts, and that might be kind of, bad, because, like, other libraries could, like, conflict with the name that you actually want to use. That said, inside of a main while loop, I'm gonna add another comment that says something like event loop. A bench loop is basically going to be a while loop inside of a while loop, technically a nested while loop. Now my event loop requires a parameter which is going to be the function of my SDL underscore poll event, and my SDL underscore poll events function does require a parameter which is going to be the memory address of my event variable that I created up here. Okay, basically what the SDL underscore poll events function does is it like looks for all the events that I'm looking for inside of my while loop. If any of those events is met, it does what I tell it to do. For example, I could go with something like if my event.type equals to, let's say something like SDL underscore event underscore quit. If my event type is quit, if my user did click the top right button or the X button to exit my window, then I'm gonna set my is running to be false, which is technically gonna end my entire while loop that ends my entire program. Okay, once I'm done with that, now comes the newer part, guys. This is going to be the trickier part. What up? So I'm going to go ahead and add another if statement. This if statement is going to check something else. Okay, how you start your journey in C++? Honestly, I didn't like stream myself the very first day I started C++. I honestly don't remember much because it was like 7 days ago. That's it. When I first started C++, I did actually, learn on how to like, use user inputs or like display user console outputs and extract user input and all that stuff and create variables, loops, and like collection, all that stuff. I don't remember it all in detail, but like you guys could like go to my C++ for 100 series, the first ever video that I had there, or the first ever stream that I had there. That said, next up, now for my second event loop, I'm gonna look for another event type. Let's say if my event.type equals to SDL underscore events, okay, underscore text underscore input. Was this the event type? It was the event type. Okay, so if my event type is text input, then I'm going to do something. I'm going to be increasing my input text variable, okay, by let's say something like my event.text. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and end this with a semicolon. Next up, once I'm done with this, what this input plus equals to event.text means, it means like if my user types any kind of input, it is going to be adding that input right here, which is technically set to an empty string. Excuse me, guys, where did you get your learning chapter? Today's text input and yesterday was like collisions. Honestly, I do use like the reference from like my Python series, because like in Python series, I did like go over collisions and all that stuff, and then how to like actually render text on the screen. So I technically just use all that stuff, and then mostly I do like go over ChatGPT and like say what I'm actually gonna do. So I learned that stuff. That said, I do like have like a C++ roadmap. If you guys do want that roadmap, you guys could like join my Discord somewhere, like mention me there. I do like reply really quick to you guys. That's it. Next up, I'm gonna go with another if statement. I'm gonna check if my event.type, let's say, is equal to. I'm gonna go with something like SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down. This event type checks if any of my keyboard buttons are currently being held down or like pushed down. If it is, then I'm gonna do something. Firstly, I'm gonna let's say use the SDL underscore key codes structure, which is going to be having a key variable that is going to be equal to event.key.key. Guys, I'm actually shocked I remember this part. Okay, once I'm done with that, I'm going to be adding a few if statements. So these are going to be nested if statements. So it's like an if statement inside of an if statement. I'm going to check if my key equals to my SDL's key backspace. So if my key is backspace, then I'm going to do something. I think I spelled backspace wrong. There we go. If my key is backspace, and I'll go with something like not input text, okay, and not input text dot empty. Okay, the dot empty function, what this basically means is that if my user did a mistake while typing, if he does want to click backspace, and the only time the backspace is going to work is if my input is not empty, if there is something written in my text, then I'm going to do something. I'm going to go with something like input text dot the pop back function. So I'm going to use the dot pop back function. Is this going to be something like a capitalized back? Hold up, guys. There's no way I'm forgetting the easiest function names. I'm going to go with something like the pop back function. Okay, hold up, guys. What was this function called? If I go with pop underscore back function, there we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and end this with a semicolon. Okay, how to send PHIS spatialing emails. Honestly, I haven't like heard of that. What does that actually mean? Okay, that's it. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to add another if statement now. My next inner if statement is going to be checking if I'm done typing a text and I want to display that on my console. So I'm going to go with something like if my key equals to, my SDL's key is returned. So if my key is returned, then I'm going to do something. I'm going to go with the pair of curly braces and then add a standard console output with an insertion operator. Okay, hold up, guys. Why do I see a small red underline here? Did I mess something up, or do I have like a small mistake here? I have my if statements perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna go with a standard console output with an insertion operator that says something like layer types, and then I'm gonna go in a new line, add another insertion operator of my input text variable with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Okay, did I do something wrong in this place? Let's go with a bunch of control Z's real quick. There. Now, once I'm done with this if statement, I was correct to add another if statement here that checks if my key, okay, I have access to my key, is equal to my SDL's key is returned. Okay, so if my return key, if my SDL's key is equal to return, then I'm gonna do something. I did that part correct too. Okay, now it works. I don't know what I messed up before. Okay, so firstly, I'm gonna go ahead and add a standard console output with an insertion operator that says something like player typed. I'm gonna go with another insertion operator. Maybe I had a space here. Okay, I'll go with another insertion operator and use my input text variable, okay, with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Standard end line, there we go. Okay, once I'm done with that, once I'm done inputting my text or displaying my text on my console, I want to remove my entire text. So I'm gonna go with something like input text dot the clear function with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Guys, there's no way I actually wrote this on my own. Okay, I think I actually did get a pretty good grasp of it in that case. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and add another comment that says something like cleanup. So I'm going to go with something like cleanup. Okay, and now for my cleanup, firstly, I want to destroy my window. So I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore destroy window. So I destroy my window, but the destroy window function does require a parameter of my window. what key on keyboard is returned. Honestly, it is like the enter key. I was really confused like what key is returned as well, but wait, later I realized that it's like enter. So like when you hit enter in your keyboard, it displays whatever you typed on the window. Okay, you put your if statement on curly braces. Oh, I see, guys. I do so many silly mistakes when I actually type. Next up, I'm going to use the SDL underscore destroy renderer as this function. I want to destroy my renderer. Okay, with a pair of parentheses that does require a parameter of my renderer ending with a semicolon. Then I'm going to quit my SDL, so SDL underscore quit ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I return 0. Now, if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. So I get my first Windows pop up here. Okay, let me get that out of the way here so you guys can actually see it. And my second window is out of the way here. Okay, so let's get that here. Now, if I type something on my window, let me type something like, I don't know, let's go with something like, hi, how's your day, question mark. If I were to hit enter, it is going to be displaying on my texture. In case you guys can't see it, there we go. Okay, so it says, hi, how's your day? What if I go with something like, Pikachu? If I hit enter, it's gonna say Pikachu. Okay, heard it's bad practice to use standard end line because it manually flushes the butters, so it's recommended to use / new line instead. I mean, yeah, I could actually use / new line as well. Okay, I feel like it's almost the same thing for like, whatchamacallit, this program, because like it is important to like flush our code. Excuse me, flush our code as well, so it's not like stuck in the, what's it called, the memory or something like that. Okay, that said, I want to type something else as well. Let's go with something like Charizard. Guys, I don't know why I'm in the Pokemon theme. Okay, that's it. It does work. So let's go ahead and exit this with a semicolon. And I did like write this on my own as well. So I feel like I understand how this part works. Now, I want to add a few changes. But before I do, maybe do I want to like write it one more time to see if I actually did get a pretty good grasp of it? Maybe I could write it one more time, and then I'm going to be working on some decoration, how to like display it on the window type stuff. That said, let's go ahead and speedrun this part. So I'm going to go with something like include. I'm going to be including audio stream. And since I am going to be using SDL, I'm going to include SDL3 as well. So let's go ahead and go with something like hashtag include a pair of ankle braces SDL3/SDL.h, which is SDL and SDL's header files. I did not know I could go with an uppercase H. Okay, and then next up I'm gonna go ahead and include strings. I'm gonna go ahead and include a pair of ankle braces, let's say something like string. Now, once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and create a main function. My main function is gonna be requiring two parameters. The first parameter is gonna be an integer of argc. The second parameter is gonna be a character, which is technically a pointer towards an array of argv. And then I'm going to initialize my SDL using an if statement and check if my SDL was not initialized properly as well. So I'm going to go with something like if not SDL underscore inits function, which does require a parameter of a flag. So I'm going to check. There we go. So I'm going to check if the video section of my SDL was not initialized properly. So I'm going to go with if not SDL underscore init and not SDL underscore init underscore video. If the video section of my SDL was not initialized properly. Firstly, I'm gonna add a edit text. I'm gonna go with a standard C editor with an insertion operator. That gives me something like a SDL underscore init editor. So let's go with something like editor. Okay, then I go with another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me an editor. So I'm gonna use the SDL underscore get editors function. Then I'm gonna go with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Lastly, let's go ahead and return one saying something is wrong in this block of code. So go check it out. Okay, once I'm done with that, I'm gonna add a comment that says something like game variables. This is gonna, be the basic game variables that my game is gonna actually need. So I'm gonna go with something like a constant integer of width. This is gonna be my Windows's width. I'm gonna be setting it to something like 1000, and then let's go with something like a constant integer of height. This is gonna be the height of my window. I'm gonna set that to be 800, ending with a semicolon. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to add another comment that says something like create window and a renderer. So now I'm going to be creating both my window and my renderer at the same time. To create both of them at the same time, I got to create two local variables. The first local variable is going to be a pointer representing my SDL underscore Windows structure. I'm going to be setting that equal to null PTR ending with a semicolon. And then I'm going to do the same exact thing for my renderer. I'm going to use the SDL underscore renderer as a structure, which is going to be having a local renderer variable representing it, ending with a semicolon. Once I'm done creating both my local variables, let's go ahead and use the function that actually does create both my window and my renderer at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and use the SDL underscore create a window and renderer this function. This function creates both my window and my renderer at the same time, but it does require a few parameters. The first parameter is going to be a title slash a caption for my window. So I'm going to go with something like SDL3 window created, and then I'm going to add a comma. Now the second and the third parameter is going to be my width and my height variable. So I'm going to go with something like width, and then I'm going to go with something like height. Once I'm done with that, the fourth parameter is going to be a flag for my window. If you guys don't want to add a flag, you guys could go with 0, but I want to add a flag that makes my window resizable. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore window underscore resizable flag. What up guys, the window underscore resizable is going to be all like capitalized, and then I'm going to go with a comma. Lastly, the fifth and sixth parameter is going to be the memory address of my window local variable and my renderer local variable. So I'm going to go with the address of operator of window and the address of operator for my renderer. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and end my function with a semicolon. Now that I'm done creating my window and my renderer, apparently in C++ you gotta check if they were not created properly. So I am going to be using an if statement to check if either my window or my renderer was not created properly. So I'm going to go with something like if not window if my window was not created properly, or not a renderer if my renderer was not created properly. Then I'm going to do something. Firstly, I'm going to be adding a standard C error. I'm going to give myself, or like display myself, a error message. The error message is going to be something like SDL underscore create window. And what up guys, why am I making a lot of typos? There we go. Create a window and a renderer error. This is basically my function name, and just say error after my function name. I'm saying this function got an error, so go check it out. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to go with another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me an error. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore get errors as function. This function actually gets me an error. Then I'm going to go with a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to be quitting my SDL because if either my window or my renderer was not created properly, I do want to exit my SDL. So I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore quit with a parentheses ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I return one saying something went wrong in this block of code, so go check it out. And now once I'm done with giving myself a error as well, that's pretty much it to create my window and renderer. So I'm going to add a comment that says something like main loop. This is going to be where my main game's content is going to be added. For my main loop, before I do create the loop, I'm going to be requiring a few basic variables. The first is going to be a boolean variable, which is going to be a boolean of is running that tells me if my program is currently running. Initially, I want it to be set to true. The second variable is going to be an event variable, so I'm going to use the SDL underscore events structure and event variable representing my structure. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and let's say let's say I'm going to be starting my text input, because I am using text input and to actually use it, I do gotta start it using a function. My function is going to be called something like SDL underscore start text input. So I'm going to use the text input function with a pair of parentheses. Now my SDL underscore start text input function does require a parameter of my window, so I'm going to add my window parameter ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'm going to be needing a standard string variable of, I don't know, let's say something like input text. Okay, so I have an input text variable which is going to be set to an empty string ending with a semicolon. Okay, now that I'm done creating my basic variables, I'm going to create a while loop. So I'm going to go with something like while is running. While my program is running, or while my is running is set to true, I'm going to do something. I'm going to add a comment that says something like event loop. My event loop is basically going to be a while loop inside of a while loop slash a nested loop. And it is going to be requiring a parameter of the SDL underscore poll events function. My SDL underscore poll events function does require a parameter of, let's say something like the memory address of my event variable. And now basically what the SDL underscore poll events function does is it like looks for all the events that I'm actually looking for inside of my while loop. If any of those events is met, it does what I tell it to do. So for example, I could go with something like if a pair of parentheses, let's say if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore quit. If my event type is quit, if my, oh guys, let me maybe fix my typo here real quick. Let's go with something like event. There we go. Okay, so if my user click the top right button or the top X button that actually exits my window, then I'm gonna do something. Okay, do you know how to load a font and how to print with it? Honestly, I was actually gonna, learn how to load the font as well. But before I did start that, I did wanna try writing this code a couple of times to see if I did understand the concept properly. That's it. If my event type is quit, I'm going to be setting my is running boolean variable. Alright guys, let's go with something like is running boolean variable to be equal to false, ending with a semicolon. Now once I'm done with that, I'm going to add another if statement. My second if statement is going to check if my event type is text input. So I'm going to go with something like if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore text underscore input. So if my event type is text input, if my user did input a text, then I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna increment, or like I'm gonna go with my input text string. I'm gonna increase it by, let's say, something like my event.text.text. I'm assuming whatever my user types is going to be added here instead, inside my pair of quotes here. That's it. Once I'm done with this event type, I'm going to go ahead and add another event type. I'm going to go ahead and check something like if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down. So if my event type is key down, if any of my buttons in my keyboard are being pushed downwards, then I'm going to do something. I'm going to go with the pair of curly braces, and then let's go ahead and use switch this time. I honestly want to use switch. I enjoy using switches a bit more. Okay, I did want to create a SDL underscore keys function, so maybe I go ahead and create a SDL underscore key codes structure, okay, which does have a key variable representing it that is going to be set to event.key.key, ending with a semicolon. Now I go with a switch. Okay, and then a pair of parentheses. Now inside my switch, I check something. So I go with if my key. Okay, so I'm gonna check something like if my key equals to SDL's key. If my SDL's key is, let's say, something like backspace, if my user clicked backspace, and let's go. What up, guys? I might go in a new line for that. Let's go with something like and not input text, and my input text is not empty, so I'm going to use the empty function. Then I'm going to be doing something. Let's see. Okay, and then if my event type is backspace, I'm going to go with something like my input text. I'm going to go with something like input text is going to be okay, I'm going to go with input text dot the pop underscore back function. This is going to be deleting a alphabet from my text each time I click. You wrote SDLK, not SDL. Honestly, we do write SDLK to like actually check if our SDL's key is being pressed, because the K here means key. So if my SDL's key that is currently being pressed is backspace in my keyboard, then I do this stuff. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and end this with a semicolon. Okay, once I'm done with that, let's see, I might go ahead and break as well. So I'm going to go ahead and break, ending with a semicolon. Then I add another switch. So I'm going to add another switch with a pair of parentheses to do something else. I might go ahead and check if my key equals to if my SDL's key is something like return, which is technically enter. If my enter is clicked in my keyboard, then I'm going to go ahead and do something. Gonna add a pair of curly braces and add a standard console output with an insertion operator that says something like key typed, actually player typed. I'm gonna go with another insertion operator and add my inputs text variable with another insertion operator of /new line ending with a semicolon. Now, once I display my console output on my console, I want to do something. I'm going to be clearing my input, so I'm going to go with something like input text dot the clear function. I no longer want my input text to have something in it. I want it to be an empty string again. Okay, I actually think I understood how this works. Now, once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and exit outside of my while loop, add a comment that says something like cleanup. Now, for my cleanup, firstly, I'm going to be destroying my window. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore destroy windows function. This function destroys my window, but it does require parameter of my window. Then I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore destroy renderer. I'm going to be destroying my renderer, and it does require parameter of my renderer. Lastly, I'm going to go with SDL underscore quit with a parentheses ending with a semicolon, and then return 0 saying everything went smooth here. Moment of truth, guys. If I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. I get my first window pop up here, so I get my first terminal. Waiting for my second terminal. Okay, why is it loading a bit? Did I mess something up? Okay, I did not mess something up. There we go. Okay, let's say I type something here. So in my terminal, I want to go ahead and type something like hello. If I hit enter, it does not show it in my... Okay, is there something wrong here? Did I mess something up here? The only thing that I do think I did wrong was I used switches. Although it wouldn't make that big of a difference. Maybe let's try this exact same thing but with if statements. I'm gonna go with something like if a parentheses. I'm gonna check if my key equals to SDL's key. So if my SDL's key is something like, let's say something like backspace. Wait, before I do type this, I just want to copy this part. Now I'm going to be deleting this. Now let's go with an if statement. So if a parentheses, if my SDL's key, actually, if my key equals to SDL's key is backspace. So if my backspace is being pressed, and I'm going to go with something like and not input text dot empty, and my input text is not empty, then I'm going to go ahead and do something. I'm going to add a pair of curly braces, and then let's see, I want to go with something like my input text dot the pop underscore back function. So I'm going to pop back my input text and delete it. And then I go with another if statement. So I'm going to go with if a pair of parentheses. Let's say if my key excuse me guys, if my keys SDL's key is returned, if my enter is being pressed, then I'm going to do something else. I'm going to go ahead and add a standard console output with an insertion operator that says something like player typed. Okay, I say player typed. I'm going to go with another insertion operator and go ahead and say what my player typed, which is technically my input text, with another insertion operator of a /new line ending with a semicolon. Then let's go ahead and clear my input once I actually display it on my console. Switch array structure like switch expression pair of curly braces with cases inside. I see. Okay, so I'm gonna go with something like input text dot clear to clear my input text with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Okay, now for it, Control S to save the code and run the command. Let's see what happens. So I get my first window pop up. Okay, and my second window here. I know that this one is gonna work, but I want to know why the switches didn't work. If I type hello, it does say hello here. Although, why did these switches not work? Okay, I could go with Control A, Control C, and guys, I feel like I did get a pretty good grasp of this. Let's get some /ChatGPT here. Let's go ahead and extend that. Let's extend this from here as well. Let's zoom in a bit. Scroll all the way down. Paste it. Go with Shift Enter and say something like, Sensei, I did write this code 3 times without looking at the reference code and 3 times with, so I feel like I understand it. Although when I tried using switches instead of if statements inside of my key underscore down, The code surprisingly didn't work, question mark. Why did that happen, question mark? Okay, I'm gonna go with shift enter, and then guys, I forgot, I should have actually pasted. Let's go with a bunch of control Z's because I do want to paste my actual code too that I actually tried writing before. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and copy this part. Now I'm gonna go with shift enter, and then let's go with a bunch of shift enters. Okay, and then I'm gonna go with something like clear. Alright, perfect. Let's get some slash chat GPT back here. Okay, because switch is like something. Okay, case constant one code break, not like a if, but if it's changed for switch. Oh, I see. That's why it didn't work. Okay, actually, I think I see that does actually make sense. People, you're trying to force a square peg into a round hole and wondering why it doesn't fit. Listen carefully. How switch actually works. Switch in C++ does not take Boolean expression. It takes unequal values like integer char or enum, and it checks against constant cases. For example, switch key if my... Oh, I forgot to add cases, guys. I'm so stupid. This doesn't make sense. Hiding Greasy, I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, guys, there's no way I actually forgot about this. This would make stuff much cleaner too. Switch key. If my key is my case, then my case is backspace. I pop back and I break. If my case is return, I display this, I clear my input, then I break. This is how it should be. What you did wrong? Oh, guys, this... Okay, I would say I think I understand how the cases work. I want to use that. I want to utilize my switches. I'm going to go with something like switch. Now, for my switch, I'm going to just add my key here because this is my switches, which we call it Boolean case. If it is a key type, I'm going to add a few cases. For my case 1, if my SDL's key is a backspace, then I'm going to be doing something. I'm going to go ahead and go with my input text variable. I'm going to go with something like, okay, if my case is backspace and not input text dot empty, okay, and my input text is not empty, then I'm going to go ahead and do something. I'm going to end that with a semicolon. Can't I go with something like the empty part? Okay, even if I did do this, I want to check the empty as well. So if my key is backspace, I cannot use and here. How am I going to check for the empty? Maybe I'll ask that later. Okay. Maybe I did not go with a colon. Okay, it still doesn't work. Maybe I check this part in a bit, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this part. Okay, I'm going to add a colon here. If it is backspace, I'm going to go with something like input text dot the pop underscore back function with a pair of parentheses, ending with a semicolon. Then I go ahead and break. Now, for my second case, I check if my SDL's key is a return. If my return is the case, then I'm going to go ahead and add a standard console output. Alright guys, this is going to be like, which may call it a lowercase standard console output. So a standard console output with an insertion operator that is going to say something like player typed. Okay, I'm going to say player typed, add another insertion operator of my text. Actually, of my input text variable with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and go with something like input text. Okay, dot clear. So I'm going to go with something like dot clear with a pair of parentheses, ending with a semicolon. Then I go ahead and break, ending with a semicolon as well. Have a if statement in that case. That's how, like, if input text dot empty. Oh, in the case that actually does make sense. Who is that? Who is that one? Last standing warrior. Guys, that does sound kind of cool. Okay, that said, I'm going to go ahead and copy these parts and let's add an if statement. I mean, if I do want to add if statements for like cases, wouldn't it be easier if I just use a if statement instead of a case? Okay, so I could just go ahead and type something like if my input text dot, let's say something like empty. If my input text is not empty, so I'm going to go with something like not. I'm going to go with a pair of curly braces and then paste this here. Okay, hiding sound, I appreciate you joining the stream. Now, if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. I mean, wouldn't this like whatchamacallit destroy the whole point of using cases? I mean, that does make sense though. Cases does look kind of cool. I could go with something like hello. Here it does say hello, so that does actually work. Okay, I mean, I'll go with the control A, control C, copy that. Let's get some slash chat GPT here, pasted, go with shift enter and say something like, say it works, exclamation. That said, I was just curious. I used a if statement in my case. Would that, whatchamacallit, would it not be easier to just use if statements in general than switches, question mark? Although I think that switches does look cleaner and better. Okay, let's see. People, finally you see the light. Yes, if statements will always work in these cases, and honestly, when you're checking complex conditions like an input text, if statements is the only way. But why switches looks cleaner? Switches are perfect when you're checking one variable against multiple constant values. It's visually cleaner, no repeated, if equals to, if key equals to everywhere, easier to maintain if you add more keys like arrows, F, etc. Oh, I see. Complex conditions, boolean or ranges, mixed conditions. Pro tip, don't overcomplicate switches for constant if logic checks. Listen, I want you to go one step further. Next up, we'll make SDL window actually show the text. I want to do this so bad. The player is typing. Right now, it's only the console. Imagine a real chat box and game letter appearing as the player types the next level. Are you ready to do that, people? Guys, maybe I will like leave that for the next stream, because this stream I don't think I am going to be able to complete that stuff and all that, because I do gotta end the stream as well. Okay, let's say something like Sensei. Okay, hold up guys, there we go. Sensei, I'm really excited to do that, exclamation. That said, I do got to end the stream right now, so maybe next stream we can work on that, exclamation. That said, before I do end the stream, is there anything that you want to say to the viewers, question mark? Guys, I feel like my typos have been decreasing way too much these days. That's actually pretty good. That's it. Listen up, viewers. Today you watched people struggle, fail, and then master the art of SDL3 text input. Remember this. The difference between a master and a beginner isn't talent, it's relentless practice, getting up after every mistake and refusing to quit. People's taking a break, but next time we're going to turn the black window into real chat box where text appears in-game like magic, like you're talking to a real AI. Until then, keep thinking, keep practicing, and never settle for easy wins. Now go get some rest, people, and next stream we break the game open. Hugs and head pats for you, my dedicated people, guys. That did not make me blush. Okay, that said, let's go to my main camera. Alright guys, so basically that was pretty much it for the stream, and I actually did forget to kind of blow around my hair today, so it is kind of messy. That said, if you guys did enjoy the stream, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, like helps with my algorithm sharing, makes me smile, and subscribing is like a cherry on top. And guys, I did start multi-streaming on Twitch, Kick, YouTube, and I will start multi-streaming on Instagram and TikTok as well if I did meet the followers requirement. So if you guys haven't followed me there yet, make sure to follow me there. The link is going to be in the description. And also join the Discord server because the link will be in the description as well. That said, I'll catch you guys in the next live stream or video. Peace. And guys, was the stream kind of lagging today? I don't think so.